This is Southwest Florida in Focus. Coming up, worries that food insecurity will hit new levels in the Sunshine State. Soup kitchens step up to feed customers as funds for federal food programs are tied up by the government shutdown. Lee County's superintendent is hit with 2 federal lawsuits after teachers allege they were punished for posts made on their personal social media. And why one local surgeon is telling older patients to ignore age recommendations when it comes to getting a mammogram. Hello, I'm Sandra Victorova. We thank you for joining us. 5 weeks and counting, the government shutdown is now the longest in U.S. history. Caught in the crosshairs are people who depend on federal services that no longer have funding, including the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP or food stamps. Federal judges ordered the Trump administration to maintain funding for the program, which helps low-income families pay for groceries. However, the administration only agreed to release $4.6 billion in contingency funds to keep the help flowing. That's just over half of the $8 billion needed to cover the monthly SNAP payments. In Southwest Florida, people who count on SNAP are now searching for new ways to feed themselves. And nonprofits and food kitchens are making emergency preparations for an influx of new customers. WGCU Samuel Brucker reports.
This man joins the biggest crowd in a long time to eat at the soup kitchen at Community Cooperative in Fort Myers. He says his first name is McKinley. He did not want to give his last name. McKinley's SNAP benefits have ended, and he says he has hardly any money to buy food.
I've had to go between here and a couple other places that I know can provide food, especially due to the climate change. It makes it a lot harder to maintain. Like for me and myself, I have a hard time staying warm. So when it gets cold, I eat more.
More people than usual are coming to the soup kitchen.
Eggs.
You have a good rest of your day there.
All right, thank you.
And the Cooperative's pantry to make up for the loss of food benefits.
Everybody's pretty much in a bind right now. It's basically, for me, it's like relying on the government, which I really don't want to rely on the government because I want to get out and work and get my own money and be able to support my own self.
As a leader of this organization, this type of scenario is a perfect storm. It keeps me up at night.
That's Stephanie Inc. Edwards, Chief Executive at Community Cooperative. She says last year they served about 5,000 people. This year, it's going to double to about 10,000.
We will get through this, and I know there'll be a lot of people in the community that want to step up and help organizations like ours to continue to meet the need because no one deserves to be hungry.
Thank you.
Back in the community cafe, McKinley agrees.
I spend a lot of time with people in the neighborhood and sometimes, and I know it's a struggle, especially when they have children. It puts a lot of stress within the household.
Community Cooperative says it needs donations and volunteers now more than ever. For WGCU News with photographer Kevin Smith, I'm Samuel Brucker.
Despite SNAP receiving partial funding, the distribution of benefits could be delayed weeks or even months due to state systems that need to adjust for the distribution of reduced payments. Approximately 3 million Floridians are enrolled in SNAP, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the 4th largest enrollment in the country. The Florida Policy Institute says a majority of recipients in Florida are children and seniors. Governor Ron DeSantis recently said the state will do more, but added that ending the government shutdown is the best solution.
So I know there's a lot of mobilization in Florida. I know that our Department of Agriculture is leading, and we're happy to support those efforts. But the idea that somehow the federal government, these Democrats are holding up the funding, and that the state of Florida should just all of a sudden create our own program to mimic it. First of all, we wouldn't be able to administer something. I mean, it would take a long time. So the easiest solution to it, if this is something you're concerned about, is that they should stop holding up the funding for the program.
Democrats in the Florida Senate and House sent a joint letter to Governor DeSantis asking him to declare a state of emergency on food insecurity. Democrats are asking for additional funding to support what will not be provided by the federal government. They also asked resources be provided to schools, writing that, quote, no parent should have to choose between paying rent and feeding their kids. So far, the governor has rejected calls to declare an emergency. For more on this story, we're joined by Florida House Minority Leader Fentrice Driskell, who represents District 67, which covers the Tampa area. Representative Driskell, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So the Trump administration has agreed to partially fund SNAP benefits, covering roughly half of the monthly $8 billion needed to run the program. Is there any sense of relief or consolation in that decision?
I think that gets us literally halfway there. And so now what we need is the governor to act and try to backfill the back half. I mean, look, SNAP is one of the most effective programs when it comes to addressing hunger and food insecurity in our state. There are nearly 3 million Floridians who receive help through this program. So let's just break that down. We're talking about 1 out of 8 of our neighbors, of our coworkers, of the people we sit in the pews next to in church, right? And students who are in class every day. So it's time for the governor to act. I think that with this move by the federal administration, that does get us halfway there. So the state should step in and step up and fill the back half.
Well, on that note, last week, you and several members of the Florida House and Senate wrote a letter to Governor DeSantis urging him to declare a state of emergency on food insecurity and that the governor should use state funding to support people who depend on SNAP. So why do you think state dollars should be used to pay for federal benefits?
Because to me, this is a moral issue, and Florida has the fiscal strength to do this. We have the resources to do this. So what is now needed is the moral will to act. So unfortunately, so far, the governor's office has refused to act. It shows us that, to me, he's not focused on the people right now. But unfortunately, what happened, the federal decision, that still is not enough money to cover everyone, and only half of the people SNAP normally covers will get the resources that they need. This means that families would run out of money by Thanksgiving. By Thanksgiving, which is one of the most important holidays in our nation. And what better way to show as a state that we care about the people to make sure that they are fed? So it costs a little over $6 for SNAP to feed someone each day. $6. Aren't our families and our seniors and our students worth that?
So other states have stepped up to cover some of the cost. Are you surprised that, the governor's stance on this issue?
I guess I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed, and I think I feel some moral outrage, if you will. And when you mentioned there were several lawmakers who signed onto this letter, it was every member in the Democratic caucus. We worked together, we demonstrated unity. We're standing up for the people of Florida. We're asking for the governor to act. No, he's not a member of our same party, but when it comes to feeding hungry people, partisanship shouldn't matter. And his response, rather than to focus on the people of Florida, was to blame what's happening in Washington, D.C. with the government shutdown on the Democrats. To me, that is just so beyond the pale. It's just so low. It just shows man, you're willing to put politics ahead of even hungry kids. That's not right. So let's stop focusing on Washington, D.C. Let's try to take care of home. Let's put partisanship aside, right? Because we'd be working together to do this. We are willing to work with him to do this because at the end of the day, what matters most is that young people and that our seniors are getting fed. So, if we can't put aside partisanship to feed people, then what are we doing? This is a crisis, but it is a solvable one. We can make sure that Floridians don't go hungry. So let's feed our neighbors, because nobody deserves to go hungry, and especially not when we're heading into the holidays.
Are you frustrated by both parties in Congress right now that they haven't been able to come together to get the federal government open and resolve issues like what we're talking about today?
I think what's frustrating to me actually is that I look at this objectively, all right, taking off my Democratic leader hat, but I do look at this objectively and I say, okay, the Republicans have control of every lever of government in Washington, D.C. Why are they holding out on healthcare, which is something that's very popular? That actually would be a win for them. So to me, I see them as holding things up because they don't want to be viewed as compromising with the Democrats. I think that is the wrong lens. Anytime you are in government, it is necessary to compromise, whether you are in the minority or the majority, because the reality is that America is a diverse country, just like Florida is a diverse state, and we have different political perspectives. No one party represents all the perspectives, 100% of the people. So you got to be willing to compromise. And I suppose that's the disappointment that I have. I don't see the Republicans in leadership, particularly President Trump, willing to meet the Democrats part way. And that's all they're asking for. Standing up for people and their health care, I think, is worth it.
Florida House Minority Leader Fentrice Driskell, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Still to come, teachers are being disciplined for comments made on social media about the recent killing of Charlie Kirk, why Florida officials say the First Amendment doesn't apply to their posts. There's another casualty from the current government shutdown: military flying teams at air shows. The grounding of the Navy Blue Angels and the Air Force Thunderbirds forced the cancellation of air shows from California to Texas and even Orlando. But as WGCU's Jennifer Crawford reports, the Florida International Airshow in Punta Gorda decided the show must go on despite losing the crowd favorites.
From Fighter Jets Inc., the MiG-17.
3 MiG-17 civilian fighter jets roaring through the skies over Charlotte County, headlining the Florida International Airshow. It's a history-making performance, captivating the audience, shining as an example of pilots, event organizers, and volunteers pulling together despite bleak news that the government shutdown grounded the U.S. Navy Blue Angels and the U.S. Air Force F-16 Viper demo team, plans that were 2 years in the making. Denise Dull is president of the Florida International Airshow.
We were so excited to have them. We did work tirelessly up until Friday night to try to make a solution that would work. It was just the shutdown that just did not let us have that happen. We went all the way up the chains with senators and governors and congressmen, and it just couldn't be pulled together.
Dull says they enacted a contingency plan, bringing in the 3 MiG-17 fighter jets, a civilian team led by nationally known veteran fighter jet pilot Randy Ball.
They asked us if we could make it down here, and it was a little bit of a push, but we got 3 jets down here and excited to be here. This airplane behind us was scheduled to go into winter maintenance, so it was supposed to be done with the year. We started taking it apart. I had to call maintenance, said, put it back together, you know.
Ball and fellow MiG fighter pilots Scott Gusikoff and Bill Culberson made the trip to Punta Gorda just in time.
We were in New Mexico less than a week ago, and planning on wrapping it up and making a nice leisurely trip eastbound to kind of put the airplanes away for the season. I didn't even get the call until Thursday morning.
Las Cruces was our second to last show. We're supposed to fly Keesler, which is right next to one of our home bases. So it was going to be kind of an easy rundown. And suddenly, Keesler cancels. And suddenly, we're going to Punta Gorda with 2 jets. Oh, wait, no, they want 3 jets. So it's this scramble.
The 2-day event attracted aviation lovers of all ages, offering aircraft displays on the ground to educate and inspire. Malachi Davis is 10 years old.
What I want to do when I get older is fly a plane, and the reason why is so that I can transport other people around.
From future pilots to war veterans like 90-year-old former Marine Jack Piron.
It was a great show, and especially when the MiGs flew, that was something.
The air show, despite the absence of military teams,
I loved it. It was fantastic.
Left those in attendance looking forward to next year's event.
Amazing. I mean, this is America. And gathering together, seeing that flag come down in the beginning, definitely a moment I will never forget.
You're almost tearful about it.
A little bit, yeah.
Why is
this
that?
country's going through a lot, and it's good to see everybody come together and support each other.
The line abreast loop, one of the hardest.
For WGCU News, I'm Jennifer Crawford at the Florida International Airshow in Punta Gorda.
Last year, this nonprofit airshow lost $85,000 after its cancellation due to Hurricanes Helene and Milton. The event has raised almost $4 million for charities since its inception 43 years ago. Well, 2 teachers are suing Lee County School Superintendent Dr. Denise Carlin in federal court, alleging she violated their constitutional rights to free speech. The 2 were disciplined after making comments on social media about the killing of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk. According to court filings, teacher Brooke Wold claims that she received, quote, unconstitutional retaliation for her Facebook posts. Wold wrote, quote, I pray Charlie receives whatever God sees fit. And, quote, remember Charlie did say some gun deaths are worth it. In another post she wrote, well, sounds like he made a sacrifice that was worth it to him. Wold and 2 other teachers who made comments regarding Kirk were suspended without pay or benefits in October. A 4th teacher, Morgan Wright, was suspended for 10 days before being reassigned to another school. He also filed a federal suit against the superintendent. We reached out to Dr. Carlin's office for a response on the suits. They declined to comment due to ongoing litigation. According to both lawsuits, the comments on social media are, quote, fully protected by the First Amendment because they were political posts and not threats. Florida's Education Commissioner, Anastasios Kamoutsas, said threats are not protected speech and that teachers should be held to a higher standard.
Holding educators accountable for speech that celebrates violence in schools is not a violation of free speech. It is a necessary step to uphold the standards of the teaching profession and the safety of our schools.
With more on this story, we're joined by Andrew Spar, president of the Florida Education Association, the state's largest teacher union. Welcome, Mr. Spar.
Thank you for having me.
So we know that Florida's Education Commissioner sent a memo to superintendents across the state, which said in part, we'll take a look now, although educators have First Amendment rights, these rights do not extend without limit into their professional duties. That memo also stated Florida law allows the commissioner to find probable cause to discipline an educator who, upon investigation, has been found guilty of personal conduct that seriously reduces that person's effectiveness as an employee of the district school board. Do you agree with the commissioner that there are limits as to what teachers can say when it comes to in terms of their professional duties?
Well, first of all, we know as educators that we are held to a higher standard, and we should be. We don't shy away from that. We have a code of ethics in the state of Florida that every teacher must sign onto when they get their teaching certificate. But we also get to have professional lives. And so what concerns me about the commissioner's memo is it seemed like it was a direct threat to educators in the state of Florida, and really a word of caution from the commissioner in a way that really is meant to silence educators. And so that's not okay. We want to make sure that our educators, and they're professionals, right? They know when they come to school as professionals, they're in a professional setting, they have those expectations that they live by. When they're in their personal lives and they're speaking to people in a circle of friends, that's a little bit different. And to say that they can't have a personal life is certainly a concern of ours.
So if a teacher condones violence or even advocates for violence, is that crossing a line?
So what we've seen across the state in a lot of cases is people making comments, educators making comments that the commissioner has deemed to be problematic. Now, here's a couple of things I want to say about that. The commissioner is not the investigator, the judge, and the jury in this case. There is a process in Florida. If an educator does something outside of work, which impacts their ability to do their jobs effectively at work, that is what the standards say in the state of Florida for educators. And so what we want to make sure is that those educators, one, if they say something, that there's a fair process. And that fair process means that there are investigators in the state who investigate an accusation. They then bring a recommendation to an independent commission, the Florida Professional Practices Commission, which ultimately looks at the whole scenario and makes a determination. And we trust that process, and we want that process to be followed.
So if a teacher were to promote or condone violence on their personal social media, do you think that is reason enough to pull them out of the classroom?
We do not encourage any of our educators to ever condone or promote violence. But we have to remember that what the commissioner has been talking about, and I've seen a lot of the posts that the commissioner has complained about or that others have complained about, the question becomes, are they really condoning violence? And I think in a lot of those cases, we would find out they're not.
Andrew Spar, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We spoke further with Andrew Spar. On next week's program, we'll hear his take on how students are faring with peers when it comes to national testing, like the SAT, and the impact of school vouchers on Florida's public schools. Well, after the break, the battle against breast cancer in the golden years, why one local doctor thinks seniors should continue mammograms beyond the age standards. Breast cancer is the second most common cancer among women, right behind skin cancer. The American Cancer Society estimates about 400,000 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed in 2025. Approximately 42,000 of them are expected to die this year. Catching it early can be the difference between life or death. That's why one breast surgeon says even elderly patients shouldn't stop getting mammograms. WGCU's Jennifer Crawford reports.
So here is the heart right behind the left breast. And look, here is her cancer. It lights up like a light bulb.
Fort Myers breast cancer surgeon Dr. Lee Blackwell points out the red mass on her computer screen.
And why do we see it so well on this MRI? Because it's getting all this rapid blood flow.
A tumor about the size of a quarter, but not for long.
This one is going to grow very fast because it's in a very aggressive breast cancer. The aggressive breast cancers will come out of nowhere.
The tumor invading the left breast of her newest patient, 74-year-old Kathleen Mitchell.
Pretty much shock, because I've had, decades of normal mammograms, so I had no reason to expect anything else.
A Lee County resident for 15 years, Mitchell felt lucky to survive Hurricane Ian after her house was destroyed. Finally settled into a new home, she's bracing for the next monster storm, this one rapidly developing inside her body.
I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer about 3 weeks ago.
It is the big bad wolf of breast cancer. She got the worst one.
But Dr. Blackwell, a board-certified breast surgical oncologist, is well armed to lead Mitchell through the fight for her life.
I'm going to use this information to help me assess her response to chemotherapy. If she needs surgery, she needs medical oncology and systemic treatment with chemotherapy, and she will need radiation.
Dr. Blackwell says Mitchell's mammogram was the key to catching it early enough to cure.
And you see here's the cancer here, and it's a little thicker and more white. The whole goal of mammography is to find things before you can feel them. Then you potentially will catch them when they're earlier. If she had not gotten her mammogram, is that she would have presented when she felt a mass, and potentially by the time she felt it, it could have already spread somewhere else. And then when the cancer is somewhere else in your body and not isolated to the breast or lymph nodes, then it is just maintaining your life, but you are never going to cure it.
The U.S. Preventative Services Task Force recommends that women aged 40 to 74 with an average risk of breast cancer should get mammograms every other year. Dr. Blackwell says the recommendations do not go far enough. She believes mammograms should continue beyond age 74.
The older you are, the higher likelihood that you're going to have a cancer. That mammogram saved her life. She said she couldn't feel it.
The prognosis is good if I follow everything I need to do when I plan it.
Dr. Blackwell says community resources are available for those unable to afford mammograms. The nonprofit Partners for Breast Cancer Care offers free mammograms, surgery, and treatment for low-income, uninsured women and men in Southwest Florida. If you need help, you can go to the Partners for Breast Cancer Care website at pfbcc.org for more information. For WGCU News, I'm Jennifer Crawford. As Veterans Day arrives next week, the U.S. Marine Corps also celebrates a major milestone, their 250th anniversary. To commemorate the occasion, veterans will host a celebration at the Charlotte Harbor Event and Conference Center in Punta Gorda. The guest of honor is Navy Cross recipient Corporal Daniel Duke Heller. He was recognized for his heroic actions in Operation Dewey Canyon while serving in Vietnam 56 years ago. Former Marine Ken Miller, who also served in that operation, says those days are forever etched in his memory.
I was a squad leader, and I was in charge of, 15, 16 Marines.
Did they all come home?
No, ma'am. No, we lost. We had 130 Marines killed, and close to 1,000 wounded in a regiment.
The 77-year-old is a member of the Marine Corps League Detachment 756 of Charlotte County. The nonprofit is hosting that event honoring the start of the Marine Corps in 1775. Well, coming up next week, what it really takes to make a living wage in Florida. We speak with a policy expert on why pay for so many Floridians isn't enough. Well, we thank you very much for joining us today. Make sure to download the WGCU app or visit WGCU.org, where you can find all of our stories, plus those extended interviews. Have a great weekend, and a special thank you to all who served our nation. We hope you have an amazing Veterans Day, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.